Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you. This is a new presentation from www.central-mosque.com and the Humble Heart YouTube channel. This is the 38th episode of the Making Sense series, and today we will talk about Greater Israel, broken Syria, who is pulling the strings. Before we dive into our topic, on the top right hand corner there will be a presentation where I've talked about the end of Israel is inevitable. I've explained my reasons why into this presentation, so whenever you want to, please click here and watch this earlier presentation. Let's now dive into our topic. I've talked about in this video right here about Israel's policy of escalation dominance. From the time of when Israel came into being, they have looked at every single threat as an existential threat to Israel, and they want to always respond with overwhelming force, overwhelming escalation, and they want to retain the escalation dominance ladder. They want to destroy and uproot and completely kill every single threat to Israel, whether it is in Galilee or West Bank or Jerusalem or Gaza. This is one of their policies. They want to completely destroy and uproot, whether they have to commit genocide or carpet bombing or anything else. The threat must be stopped and uprooted. When it comes to Israel, it wants to cause chaos amongst its neighbors and put them in a situation where they're no longer a threat to the state of Israel. Syria is a massive country on the border of Israel, and since the 1970s, the geography of this country has remained pretty much the same, where parts of Syria, Golan Heights, have been occupied by Israel. Previously, Israel has never invaded Syria per se, never put their ground forces inside Syria since the 1974 agreement on disengagement. Many of the political analysts call this ceasefire. It is not. It's just an agreement on disengagement, i.e. both Syria and Israel have accepted that this is the de facto situation where Golan Heights has been occupied by Israel. So while this person and his father, the butcher, occupied parts of Syria, Iranian proxies were active inside Syria, actively supporting the minority government of Hafez al-Assad and Bashar al-Assad, and yet Israel did not bomb Syria. Recently, Syria has been taken over by Ahmad al-Shara. He's a Sunni. He represents the majority Sunni population of Syria, and Israel have decided to cross the border, and Israeli Air Force has done bombing raids not only on the army of the Syrian state, but also in the capital Damascus on certain buildings which are being used by the government. A lot of people in the West, whether they're Muslims or non-Muslims, say that Ahmad al-Shara is a Zionist puppet. He's an American puppet, and yet they're unable to explain how come Israel did not carry out raids and bombs across Syria during the government of the Alawi government of Bashar al-Assad and Hafez al-Assad, while the Iranian Shia proxies were active, and yet decided to do that when the Sunnis have taken over. I will leave that question in your mind. So as I said in the video, Israel has two problems. Let's talk about problem number two. Israel is a tiny sliver of land. It needs to expand, and one of their plans is to actually expand, take over vast territories between their neighbors and convert it into something called the Greater Israeli region. So that will take over parts of Egypt, parts of Jordan, parts of Syria, parts of Iraq, and even parts of Saudi Arabia. Let's now turn to problem number one, the problem of demographics. There aren't enough Jews which are migrating to Israel. So if Israel was to expand and take over this vast territories and make the dream of Greater Israel come true, they simply do not have the people to man these massive regions, and they have to rely on American boots, and that's the reason why they want to drag America into Middle East, because they want to rule this massive land in the Middle East using American personnel and American people. So they have two problems. They have a demographic problem where there are not enough Jews, and they want to solve it by using American people. They have a tiny sliver of land in the Middle East, and they want to solve it by converting it into Greater Israel. The recent skirmish which happened inside Syria and the bombardment by the Israeli Air Force, let's look at the key players. Who are the key players inside Syria and also outside? The key players inside Syria, the vast majority of the Syrian people belong to Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, colloquially named as Sunnis. Now these Sunnis are Arabs and non-Arabs. By non-Arabs, I mean there's some which have lineage to the Ottoman Empire, or the Turks rather. There's some that are Kurds, but they are Sunnis. Then you have a large number of Christians in Syria. Then you have Kurdish people, and I'm distinguishing in between from the Kurdish people who are practicing Sunni Muslims. These are Kurdish who follow the Marxist, Zoroastrian, communism or secular ideologies. Then you have a large number of Shias inside Syria, which are 12er Shias, just like what the people of Iran and the Persians today follow. And then you have branches of Ismailis. Ismailis was it started out as an offshoot of Shiaism, but today the two branches that I'm referring to specifically inside Syria are the Alawis. Alawis, as in coming from Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu. These people ascribe divinity to Ali radiallahu anhu. In the history of Islam, this sect was called Nusayri. However, when the French took over, this term Alawis were revived under French colonialism, and they're now called Alawis. And these people, the previous dictators of Syria, Bashar al-Assad and his father Hafiz al-Assad, were from the minority Alawi sect. Also, you have Druze, and they're also an offshoot of Ismailis. Both of these, Alawis and Druze, are considered heretics and outside of the fold of Islam, both by Shias and Sunnis. When it comes to the neighboring regions of Syria, Turkey has a problem because of terrorism, and it has largely been fueled by the Kurds who border these regions. So what Turkey wants to do is they want to create a buffer zone, and they did so by creating by supporting certain fractions and creating this buffer zone to push this threat away from their border. And Turkey still has security concerns inside Syria. Turkey believes that in order for peace, prosperity and security inside Turkey, there has to be peace, prosperity and security inside Syria. But Turkey has a major problem. Turkey has no money. Turkey has a large military, has good influence inside Syria, but it does not have the money to be able to invest and bankroll Syria. The Arabs do, whether they are Arabs of Saudi Arabia or UAE and so on and so forth. So what Turkey wants to do is it wants to lobby the Arabs, the Sunni Arabs of Saudi Arabia and UAE, to say a united and prosperous Sunni dominated Syria is in your interest, because Iran and its proxies will not find the space to operate inside Syria. So Turkey can solve the military and the and the security concerns, but the money has to come from Sunni Arabs. Let's now talk about Druze. There are several spiritual Druze leaders in areas which are largely in Syria and Lebanon. The Druze have participated in the Israeli military. A lot of Druze have died for the Israeli militaries and so on and so forth. In fact, actually, the Druze have over 80% enlistment rate in the Israeli defense forces. However, the Druze which are outside the boundaries of Israel have pretty much are against Israel, except for one person, which is this al-Hijr, who actually started the recent problems inside Syria. And he actually called in the Israelis to come inside Syria and fight against the Syrian military and the Syrian government forces. As I said, Israel is threatened by anybody outside their border which is not completely loyal, submissive, or in a chaotic state to be able to challenge Israel. So Israel would like a completely dismembered, broken up Syria, just like what happened in Lebanon, and I've done a presentation on Lebanon. I'll put that in the description of this video, where I've talked about how in the similar demographics of Muslims and Shias and Druze and Christians and so on, the government of Lebanon is always divided, unable to do anything meaningful. There's been a plan for decades where Israel has proposed to actually carve up Syria in a similar manner. So they will there will be some parts of Syria right down here which will be ruled by the government and the capital based in Damascus. Then there will be large parts, autonomously ruled. There will be some parts where, in the past there was a proposal that this will, because these are seaports and they were important to Russia, that they will be under some kind of autonomous control to be used for, as a naval base by other regions. And this is the part where they want to give it to the Kurds because this is an oil-rich region, but also have Turkey to have some control. So basically, Damascus will be powerless to control these vast divided regions and will never be able to stand up against Israel. That's always been Israel's proposed Syrian partition plan. This was presented to George Bush Jr. During the War on Terror and the Obama government, and this Americans have been pretty much in favor of this. And to Israel's pleasure. However, the events what have happened in Syria, which is Syria has been taken over by Ahmad al-Shara, the Sunni person, is against the interests of Israel. So why is it that nothing concrete so far has happened to divide Syria and make it completely toothless and misaligned and messed up like Lebanon? The reason being is Erdogan has been able to convince Donald Trump. So Donald Trump is a very transactional president. He has promised, he's come to power and promised Americans no more boots on the ground, no more wars in the Middle East, no more expenses overseas, and so on and so forth. And Erdogan's been able to say to Donald Trump that, hey, this Sunni-dominated Syria will ensure that the Iranian proxies will be kept in check and there will be no terrorist forces against America. He's also been able to lobby to the Sunni Arabs, particularly the UAE, that the Iranian proxies will be kept in check. Therefore, even though Netanyahu visited Donald Trump and tried to revive this plan of partitioning Syria, there has not been a lot of progress. So far, the UAE, right here, MBZ, the ruler of UAE, is caught between two choices: either to carve up Syria and go with Israel, which means chaos, and in that chaos there's a possibility that Shia proxies will once again move into parts of Syria. Also, terrorist forces will move into parts of Syria, or continue to look at it and hope that Ahmad al-Shara, although he's Sunni, he will not be an inspiration for other Arab regions such as UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and people to rise up against their rulers. So far, Erdogan has been able to lobby that that Ahmad al-Shara is the best way to go about it to keep this united Syria under control. Many brothers and sisters, are frustrated and ask how come Syria does not respond to and aid the Palestinians. My brothers and sisters in Islam, Syria is in a mess. Parts of Syria look like Gaza, completely devastated by years of war. They're unable to do anything of any practical importance to anybody. So what the Syrians want to do is they want to build up their own land, build up their own country, be able to feed themselves and stand. And Ahmad al-Shara has been lobbying the West and the Arabs the same thing, to say, lift off the sanctions from us, allow us time to actually for us to stand on our own 2 feet. In my opinion, Israel not only sees Syria as a threat, but greater Middle East. So Israel will not stop until it keeps on provoking other countries, trying to take them over and to drag America into the Middle East. One thing from Donald Trump, in America there is serious hatred against America going on all these foreign wars, costing American lives, costing American economy, costing American taxpayers. So they don't want to do that. However, there is a Zionist lobby always active in America, and this is what they want to do. So far, what the Israelis tried to do is they tried to create this uprising, and this part of Syria, and they wanted Ahmad al-Shara to react in a manner which will drag American boots back into the ground in the Middle East. However, Ahmad al-Shara has played it really nicely. He pulled back the government forces, and instead the Bedouin Sunni Arab tribes, not only from Syria but from Jordan, from Iraq, from Saudi Arabia, they actually marched upon Suwayda and they countered the Druze threat. Israel was not expecting that. Israel was expecting to fight the Syrian military. The Syrian military is not present. Instead, what is now on the borders of Israel is a massive Bedouin Arab Sunni force. So this plan has backfired. Nevertheless, this proposed partition of Syria has been on the cards for decades, and Israel will not rest until it carves up not just Syria, but also Egypt, but also Jordan, although it is a de facto American state, parts of Saudi Arabia and so on. It will keep on marching until this entity comes to its inevitable end, which I've talked about in this presentation right here in the top right hand corner. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.